Welcome to this course on Introduction to ISO 9001. If we look at the history of ISO 9001 standard, it was first published in 1987, and was subsequently revised in 1994, then in 2000, and the latest version is 2008. In this course you will learn the requirements of ISO 9001-2008. The ISO 9000 series of quality management system standards are generic and applicable to all sectors. On the other hand, some industry sectors consider that some aspects of the standards are not sufficiently detailed for their industry. Sector-specific standards, based on the ISO 9000 series, have therefore been further developed to take into consideration characteristics particular to individual sectors. Examples of sector-specific quality management systems are AS 9001 for aerospace industry, TL 9001 for telecommunication industry, and ISO 16949 for automotive sector. (1987 and 1994) versions of ISO 9000 series of standards included ISO 9002 and ISO 9003. These were subsets of ISO 9001. However, with the release of ISO 9001-2000, these two subsets, that is 9002 and 9003, were discontinued. Prior to the release of ISO 9001-2000 version, companies could get certified to 9001, 9002 or 9003. But now, companies can get certified to 9001 only. Organizations are structured into a hierarchy of functional units, and are usually managed vertically. On the other hand, the process approach introduces horizontal management, crossing the barriers between different functional units. The real value of the process approach is its focus on results, thereby eliminating activities and procedures that do not add value to its customers and other interested parties. A process can be defined as a set of interrelated activities which transform inputs into outputs. A process can further be divided into interrelated sub-processes. This illustration shows that the customer play a significant role in defining requirements as inputs. Customer requirements are inputs for product realization. Product is supplied to the customer and must enhance customer satisfaction by meeting the requirements. The quality of processes and products is measured and analyzed. Necessary steps are taken to improve them and enhance customer satisfaction. Top management is responsible for development and implementation of quality management system and continual improvement of its effectiveness. Resources are used effectively and efficiently. The cycle is repeated for continual improvement of the quality management system. This model provides an overview of the linkages between major clauses of the standard. ISO 9001 and ISO 9004 are quality management system standards which have been designed to complement each other but can also be used independently. 9001 can be used for certification or for contractual purposes. 9004 provides a wider focus on quality management than 9001. It addresses the needs and expectations of all interested parties and their satisfaction. However, 9004 is not intended for certification, regulatory, or contractual use. The latest version of ISO 9004 was published in year 2009. ISO 9001 standard serves two purposes. 1. when an organization needs to demonstrate its ability to consistently provide product that meets customer and applicable legal requirements. Secondly, when the organization aims to enhance customer satisfaction. How do they enhance customer satisfaction? It is done through the effective application of the system. In ISO 9001-2008, the term regulatory requirements has been replaced with statutory and regulatory requirements. And together these two terms, that is statutory and regulatory requirements, are called legal requirements. All requirements of this international standard are generic and are intended to be applicable to all organizations, regardless of type, size, and product provided. Where any requirement of this international standard cannot be applied due to the nature of an organization and its product, this can be considered for exclusion. However, for an organization to claim compliance to the standard, these exclusions should be limited to requirements within Clause 7 of the standard, and these exclusions should not affect the organization's ability to provide product that meets customer and applicable legal requirements. Under this section, the standard refers to ISO 9000, which provides the definitions of quality management related terms and their interrelationships. The term product is used throughout the standard. This section clarifies that product may also mean service. So if you read product anywhere in the standard, that means product or service. This clause requires that the quality management system and associated processes be developed, documented, implemented, and maintained. It also requires that the processes be continually improved. This, and the next slide, highlight the activities required for establishing, documenting, implementing, maintaining, and improving quality management system. It starts with identifying the necessary processes and their interactions, and ensuring availability of resources. For effective operations, criteria and methods are established, and these are monitored, measured and analyzed. If there is a gap between the plan and actual, actions are to be taken to bridge those gaps. Continual improvement is achieved through this cycle. Once the required processes have been established, the standard requires that these processes be managed in accordance with the standard. When a process is outsourced, the organization should control that process. These controls on outsourced processes shall be defined in the QMS. Despite of having controls and defining them in the QMS, the organization still is responsible for the outsourced processes. It does not absolve the organization of its responsibilities. Quality management system documentation includes quality policy, objectives, quality manual, documented procedures and records required by this standard and by the organization. The standard explicitly requires only 6 mandatory documented procedures. These are control of documents, control of records, control of non-conforming products, corrective action, preventive action, and internal quality audits. The organizations may have additional procedures, depending upon their specific needs. The term documented procedure means that the procedure has been established, documented, implemented, and maintained. Changes are inevitable in any organization. With a change in the process, the document should be modified and kept current on an ongoing basis. This standard defines the documentation requirement in a very broad way. The actual extent of documentation may differ from organization to organization, depending upon a number of factors. Conventionally, the documents were in paper form, but with changes in technology, many organizations have moved from paper printouts to electronic form of documentation. quality manual is the apex or the top-level document in the quality management system. It specifies the scope of the quality management system, any exclusions and their justification. The organization may either include the required documented procedures in the manual, or provide reference to those in the quality manual. Quality manual also provides interaction between the processes, or describes how these processes connect with each other. One of the 6 mandatory documented procedures required by the standard is the control of documents. This procedure includes requirement to review the documents for adequacy and approval before use. As things are changing constantly in the organization, so are the documents. For this, there should be a mechanism of identifying the revision status of the document. This is to ensure that the current revision is available at the place of work, and obsolete documents are not used unknowingly. It also requires that the documents remain legible. In addition to the documented procedures prepared by the organization, there are documents of external origin. Examples of these may be client documents, vendor documents, or legal documents. These external documents also need to be identified and distributed in a controlled manner. Documents prescribe the requirements or the actions to be taken, while records provide the evidence of conformity to the requirements. Records are considered to be a special type of documents. Control of records is another mandatory procedure required by the standard. This procedure should specify the controls needed for identification, storage, protection, retrieval, retention, and disposition of records. Records must remain legible, readily identifiable and retrievable. These are the items covered under Management Responsibility Clause of the standard. We will discuss each of these in the next few slides. Top management commitment is required to implement the standard and continually improve it. Top management must demonstrate this commitment by the activities mentioned on this slide. Top management is required to communicate the importance of meeting customer and legal requirements. Management is also responsible to establish quality policy and objectives. The requirement to conduct management review is covered under Clause 5.6 and will be discussed in detail under that section. Responsibility of management also includes to provide the required resources. Top management is required to determine customer requirements and meet these requirements with the aim of enhancing customer satisfaction. Clause 5.1 discussed earlier require that the top management establish the quality policy. This clause, that is Clause 5.3, provides the details of the quality policy. The quality policy has to be appropriate to the type of business and the purpose of the organization. The standard requires that the management should include in the quality policy their commitment to comply with the requirements and continually improve the effectiveness of the QMS. The quality policy provides the framework for establishing and reviewing quality objectives. Once the quality policy is established, it needs to be communicated and understood by people in the organization. Also, as things change, this quality policy may need to be reviewed to ensure that it is still suitable. As discussed in previous slide, quality objectives flow down from quality policy. That means quality policy and quality objectives should be aligned. Quality objectives should be measurable. For quality objectives to be achieved, the process of meeting the objectives needs to be planned. This clause also requires the management of changes, so that integrity of quality management system is maintained when the system is changed. We will learn later that the changes that affect the quality management system are one of the inputs for the management review. It is necessary that the management defines the roles and responsibilities, so that everyone has a clear understanding of who does what. These responsibilities and authorities need to be communicated to the concerned people in the organization. In addition to defining the responsibilities and authorities of the key people, top management is required to specifically appoint a management representative. This person has to be a member of the organization's management. Irrespective of other responsibilities, the management representative ensures that the processes needed for the quality management system are established, implemented, and maintained. The management representative reports to the top management on the performance of the quality management system and any need for improvement. In addition, the management representative ensures that there is awareness of customer requirements throughout the organization. It is the responsibility of the top management to ensure that the communication processes are established in the organization. In addition to the routine business communication, there is a specific requirement to ensure that the communication takes place regarding the organization's quality management system. Typically, it might include communication related to audits, corrective and preventive actions, management reviews, customer feedback, or the status of quality objectives. Management review is the process by which top management reviews the effectiveness of the quality management system and looks at the ways to improve it. This review also looks at the need of changes to the quality policy, quality objectives, or other elements of the quality management system. In this context, if you look back at Clause 5.3, it talked about the review of the quality policy for continuing suitability. The purpose of a management review is to improve the effectiveness of the quality management system, and that in fact, will help improve the organization. Management review may produce a list of actions to be taken. The standard requires that the records of management review be maintained. At the very beginning of this course, we talked about the input, process, output approach. The management review is a process and has some inputs and outputs. The standard requires some specific inputs to this process of a management review. This slide highlights the inputs required by the standard for the management review process. The output of the management review meetings is the list of decisions and the action items. These decisions are focused on areas mentioned on this slide. The record of these decisions is maintained, and it becomes the input for the next management review meeting. To produce a product, or to provide a service, resources are needed. This section of the standard deals with how the organization acquires and manages its resources. This clause of the standard requires that the organization should ensure that the people affecting the conformity to the product requirements are competent. A person can be competent to perform a task based on his or her education, training, skill level, or work experience, or a mixture of these. The previous clause required that the people should be competent to perform the tasks affecting conformity to product requirements. For that, the first step for the organization is to determine the necessary competence. If there is a difference between the required competence and the actual, the organization should provide the training or take other necessary actions to bridge this gap. After this action, the organization should ensure that the goal of required competence has been achieved. Earlier, we talked about establishing quality objectives. This clause requires that people should be aware how their work helps in achieving those objectives. This clause also requires that appropriate records of education, training, skills and experience be maintained by the organization. Infrastructure includes buildings, workspace, machines, equipments, utilities such as electricity, gas, water, and also supporting services, such as telecommunication, information system, etc. All these play an important part in ensuring that the product or service meets the requirements. This clause of the standard requires that the organization determines, provides and maintains the infrastructure. The term work environment relates to those conditions under which the work is performed. It includes physical, environmental, and other factors such as noise, temperature, humidity, lighting or weather. This clause requires that the organization shall determine the work environment requirements and manage them to achieve the product conformity